is not a danger to you. Now, there is the argument that they could, while driving 5 miles an hour down the road, high out of their mind, could pose a danger if they rammed their car into your house at 5 miles an hour. But as it stands, statistically speaking, that's nonsense. Do you want to know how many people have been killed because of marijuana? 0. 0 people have died from use of marijuana. That includes traffic-related incidents. Okay? 0. How many people have died because marijuana is illegal? Plenty. Because cops and ICE and soldiers kick in doors, kill dogs and people because they suspect them of having lots of pot. So there's that. But again, that's what we're arguing against here. Now, a lot of people will say that with more drug availability, it becomes, more prolific. More people will use drugs, and it'll just be drug use everywhere, and it'll be rampant in the streets like some sort of Sodom and Gomorrah, just people doing drugs everywhere and screwing each other, and libertine society and Rome and orgies and nonsense like that. It is nonsense. If we look at Portugal, which, as I said earlier, is the only example, the only one of a society that made drugs legal, aside from America when they were legal before, the 1900s. In Portugal, when they made drugs legal, overdoses went down. Drug use went down. Drug-related deaths from heroin, meth, stuff like that, they went down. So the idea... Oh, and drug-related crime, too. So people, crackheads trying to steal wallets or knock over liquor stores or whatever, all that stuff stopped. It went down. It went away. It's not happening as much when it's legal. Understand that and let it sink in. When drugs are legal, less drug crime, drug violence, drug-related health issues happen. Less happen when drugs are legal. That is an undisputable fact. If you try to logic your way out of it, you are ignoring the only empirical example of this. You are ignoring the only evidence and facts. Portugal has shown us that making drugs legal reduces instances of problems with drugs. It's not up for debate anymore because there's facts involved. It's not a matter of opinion. There are facts involved. You can't have an opinion on how sodium reacts with water. That's a chemical reaction. You cannot have an opinion on what 2 plus 2 equals. It equals 4. It's not up for debate. And as Portugal has shown us, legalization of drugs decreases crime and violence and overdoses. All of the arguments against drugs are dispelled by the example of Portugal. That's a fact. You can't dispute it. Now, for the statists, of course, when these drugs become legal, they'll be taxed. Now, as a libertarian, it would make sense if we taxed the imports instead of the ones produced here in our country. But if we just tax the imports as tariffs, then that would be enough to support military and police, I feel. But that's a completely different argument. But the point is, when it comes down to this debate, when somebody says that they don't like drugs, or they think drugs are dangerous, or drugs are bad for you, so therefore they should be illegal, the argument becomes dishonest. The argument is not about principles of liberty. The argument becomes government should be allowed to force you to do what's best for you, or the government should be able to decide what you do with your body. Now you can argue, no, it's not like that. It's just drugs are bad and they're crime and bad. No. Anytime you pass a law that allows government to tell you what you can and cannot do with your body, you are committing a crime against that person's liberty. By what right does a person claim authority over another? And this is part of that conversation I had. I'm going through it rather than reading the actual conversation because that would be boring. By what right is a person allowed to claim the authority over another? Now, people say it's this imaginary social contract and society and the collective and, the Borg collective is going to integrate your brain. It's nonsense. The idea that living in America has forced me to sign some sort of social contract, has forced me to become under the jurisdiction of Democrats in Washington, is insane. The idea that I agree to not consume alcohol because I live in a dry county, despite not having any say in the implementation of that, is insane. The idea that a majority of voters anywhere can strip me of rights that in no way affect them is insane. What sort of society do we live in where we think we should be able to restrict the rights of people that in no way affect others simply because we have a majority to vote on it? No, that's insane. It is not acceptable in America, in the country founded on truth, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What does liberty mean? Liberty means get the hell off my lawn. Am I being detained? What business is it of yours? By what right can you tell me what to do? That's what liberty means. I mean, for Christ's sake, this country started a rebellion over tax on a breakfast beverage, and it wasn't even coffee. Think about that for a second. The British didn't even try to ban it. They just tried to tax it. The right to put something in your body, the right to do anything for that matter, comes from the right to life. My life is my own. It is my choice what I do with my body, with my mind. It's my choice and nobody else's. As such, I am not forced to believe that someone else has the authority over my life. As such, I do not believe that if 30,000 people in my town vote that alcohol should be illegal, that I shouldn't be allowed to consume it. Why? Because consuming alcohol does not involve using force on others. However, making alcohol illegal includes using force on me if I choose to drink it. People with guns will come to my house, kick in my door, put a gun to my head, and then throw me in jail for 5 to 10 years. Or hit me with a huge fine, all because I wanted a beer. Now, if you get caught smoking weed, they kick in your door, they shoot your dog, they take your stuff, and they throw you in jail for a couple years, or they put you on probation, you can't get a job, turn you into a felon, and ruin your life because you smoked something. You didn't rape anybody, you didn't assault anybody, you smoked something. And what's worse is that there are other things you could have smoked and been just fine. You could smoke a cigar, you can smoke a cigarette, you could smoke pine needles for all I care. But just don't smoke this one. Don't smoke this one plant. How insane is it that this is the sort of society we live in? On principle, if I have the right to my own life, that includes what I put into my body. And so on principle, we as a people should understand how ridiculous it is to threaten people with guns and imprisonment, throwing them in a cage because of what they put in their body. Freedom is not anarchy. Allowing pot smokers to smoke pot is not anarchy. If anything, all these people complaining about unemployment, let the pot smokers start smoking, and guess what? Their skill levels will probably fall in the job market, and that opens up more jobs for other people who aren't smoking dope. Boom, look at that. I've just helped unemployment. Or, you know what? You'll see businesses open all across the country, hash bakeries where they bake pot into brownies and cookies and suckers and all kinds of stuff like that. And there'll be smoke rooms like hookah lounges, which are becoming prolific across the country, but for weed. And you'll see all of these businesses going up, and of course they'll hire people, which means employment will go way up. And anytime somebody creates wealth or a new industry is created in this country, it increases the wealth of the entire nation. You legalize weed, congratulations, you've just increased the GDP of the whole freaking country. You've just increased the income of the country on average. But some people think we should throw people in jail for smoking a plant. How ridiculous is that? I think it's insane. By what right? By what authority do you claim to tell another person what to do with their body? They live, they think. It is not your right to use force against them to dictate how they should live. That's what communists do. Now, one of the arguments that I encountered today was that the Constitution doesn't guarantee your right to smoke dope. Now, let me tell you this. The guy who wrote the Constitution smoked weed. In fact, most of the founding fathers smoked pot. That's not up for debate. That's a fact. Now, while I don't believe in smoking weed, the fact of the matter is, Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin, they did not foresee a society where you could not dictate what went into your own freaking body. There's no way. I mean, these are the people that rebelled over attacks on tea. And as far as the constitutional argument goes, the 10th Amendment, powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states, respectively,